Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So we're going to have some fun and get passionate here. But before we start, please allow us to introduce ourselves, just each of us. I'm Angela Rockwood, and model, actress, TV producer. I created and produced a show called Push Girls. It was on the Sundance Channel. And I just continue to push the limits and bring awareness and fade the ignorance in this industry. Been in it for 25 years. And sitting next to me is my beautiful agent, Gail Williamson.
Thank you. I'm Gail Williamson. I've been working in the industry to create inclusion for people with disabilities for about 30 years now. I started with my son, who has Down syndrome, and worked for the California Governor's Committee for Employment of People with Disabilities in their media access office when it first opened. Today, I head the diversity department at Kazarian Mazars Ruskin Talent, where I'm a talent agent specifically for performers with disabilities.
Monika.
Hello, I am Monika Mikkelsen. I work at Paramount Pictures in the casting department. I just track actors. That's what I do.
Not just.
Elisabeth?
Hi, my name is Elisabeth White. I'm a director-producer. I just produced and directed Sort of Supportive. It's a show about chronic and terminal diseased human beings, teenagers actually, and we casted real people that have disabilities and terminal disease. So I'll talk about that later on, but it was great. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Nic Novicki. I'm an actor, comedian, and producer, and I'm the founder and director of the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, which is a weekend. Thank you. I'm paying people to clap, so that's FYI. No,
Make sure you clap now.
Yeah, exactly. That's a plug if you want to get paid. No. It's a weekend film competition where we help people with disabilities get more involved in the entertainment industry. And we are really excited that we are about to announce our dates for our 6th challenge, which will be happening in 2019.
Hi, my name's Winnie Kemp. I'm really excited to be here. I'm the Senior Vice President of Television and Film at Super Deluxe, which is owned by Turner. I worked on a show that I'm incredibly proud of that we're going to start shooting our 2nd season in about a week, called This Close, with 2 incredible deaf creators, Josh Feldman and Shoshana Stern.
Hi, my name is Tatiana Lee. I am an actor, model, and a lifestyle influencer / blogger. I'm the voice behind AccessibleHollywood.com, which I started because I moved to LA as an actor, and I literally could not get into the room. So.
Hi, my name is Stephen Tingus, formerly the head of disability for the governor of California and the president of the United States, turned advocate for the implementation of hiring of people of talent with disabilities, both in front and behind the camera. I'm a board member of Respectability and will be announcing a big initiative at the end of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you. So there you have it. We're done. No, I'm kidding. All right, so just some facts here I'm going to share with you guys if you didn't know. But 1 in 5 Americans live with a disability, from ADD, blindness, cerebral palsy, dwarfism, mobility impairments, and amputees. Differently abled persons are just as creative, able, and valuable in Hollywood. So we're going to open up the questions to everyone. What do you think are main barriers that affect us in Hollywood? Gail?
What are the main barriers in Hollywood that affect us? Well, I think lack of knowledge and lack of understanding. I think we're getting a little better. Something's happening that I've been waiting for many years. We're finally getting the full inclusion generation upon us. Many of you that went to school prior to 1975, that would be me, Maybe there's no many of you. But just to explain, those of us who went to school prior to that, there was no full inclusion. There was no guaranteed education for children with disabilities. This was before Public Law 94142, which went in effect in 1975, and children slowly started matriculating onto the school campus. So I think right now we have a generation coming upon us of executives who suddenly understand there were people with disabilities in their world, and it's not, it's not uncommon. But we have taught our family, don't look, don't point. So sometimes we overlook that there are people in our lives. I mean, if we're in the market, maybe we don't even notice there's someone deaf signing over here, or someone asking for someone to help them get something off a shelf that's higher up. So we're not noticing sometimes how many people are in our life. And once we start noticing, then we realize how many are missing from television and film. So, and some of those barriers are those older, the people who are old-time Hollywood, who are not maybe opening the doors, or people who don't know. If you grew up without somebody with a disability in your family, you might not even know anything about it. So it's education. I think the lack of education is what's holding us back, probably mostly.
I would definitely agree. Anybody here on the panel wants to speak about that passionately? I'm looking at Nic right now.
I would say that a big barrier is experience. For a lot of people with disabilities, they're not getting the shots to get in the room, to get those, for actors, those co-star roles. That's kind of, and I think that's an issue, because if now you're going up against people for a series regular and they've got 25 credits and you don't have any, then that's a real issue that we need to address. So I think part of the issue is for the entertainment industry to get more involved and to try to cast some smaller roles that aren't necessarily specifically about people's disabilities and include us in those kind of roles. But then I think two-pronged that it's on us as people with disabilities to be creating our own content, because you want to be able to say, hey, and I'm also working on this, or check me out. If you want to play a doctor, you got to produce it as a web series, or there's theater, there's a lot of different avenues. And the same goes for people behind the camera. We need to be continuing to write and using DSLR cameras and creating our own content.
I would have to agree. Tatiana, would you like to say something about this?
I would definitely piggyback off of Gail and say it was lack of knowledge, and also what Nic was saying, a lot of times people only want to let us audition when there's all of a sudden want to, cast a person with a disability and a character is. So they're like, oh, now I need to round up all these people in wheelchairs. But no, why can't like you said, the doctor be in a wheelchair? Why can't the nurse or the teacher or the mom, or why can't it just be those small roles, or just even that person in the back? You know what I mean? And then that way we can develop our resume, because on average, some of my, friends that are actors who are able-bodied, they will get 6 auditions in a week, and I would only probably get 1 a month, because we don't even get the opportunity to even audition. So lack of knowledge and just the opportunities.
I'd love to also piggyback off of the previous people, because from where I sit, a lot of television and film is based upon people who have had success before. And so it's really hard if you don't have entry or access to be able to get the experience and to really, hone your talent and your skill. It doesn't mean that you don't have it, but as you write more, as you act more, as you do these creative things, you are going to, develop your art. And so I think what's really important is realizing that your own voice and your own story is important. And if you wait around for a writer who, has been around forever to write a story for you, you may be waiting a long time. And so I'm really excited, because there's so many new platforms now between Apple and, Netflix and Sundance Now, which is the financier of This Close, where, there's so many more opportunities for new creators to tell their own story in their own voice. If you have the right people who can help you do that.
I'd like to add one thing about being a little bit disruptive in this business. I think that we're doing more harm to ourselves as a community with regard to, oh, I want to be an actor, I want to win an award, I want to do this or that. Well, guess what, people? Hollywood won't change unless we're hired into executive career ladder jobs so that we have the power to make change. We can't wait. I'm the only policy expert up here that has experience from the White House to know that it's all about making the business sense of inclusion. We have $3 billion in annual disposable income. If that's not, and 20% of the population, if that's not big enough for studio heads, I don't know what is.
Monika, did you want to say something?
Just the actual experience of setting up today's panel, I think, is incredibly eye-opening. We couldn't get you onto the stage.
Right.
Yes.
I
That's
damaged my
an
chair.
issue.
But I mean, if I could add on that the panel's going to be just as good from down here.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Right,
The
right.
element too is like as people with disabilities, when it is a little different, you have to do anything. It took 1 minute, and then I
Right.
think our panel's going to be more interesting in some senses because a lot of people don't have insight into seeing us. So
Exactly.
one plug for.
But it's important to see.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. It's the truth. It's just like what Nic said. Sometimes you just got to push your way through some things, and you just got to be flexible, and that's one of the main things that I feel. I mean, this is a whole other subject, but with a lot of the producers or just the folks that are hiring us, thinking about those specific needs of
Correct.
exactly. But I'm
And
gonna
also pushing through the shame of not knowing, being not well educated, as Gail was speaking to, and then feeling guilty or shameful about that rather than open to learning something new.
Right.
And just being available and shameless about asking questions and learning details about something you don't know.
Exactly.
That helps a lot.
No, of course. It's all about disarming the dis and disabled. So I'm going to also agree with what Gail was saying earlier about there is a shift going on, and you could feel it and you can see it. So it brings in with the next question. Do you think that representation in film and television could help destigmatize society's view on differently abled individuals?
Yes.
Tatiana,
Okay.
Monika.
This is what I love to
Go
talk
ahead,
about.
girl. Go ahead.
Yes, it will, because people don't realize that what we consume in mass media depicts how we feel about things, what we
Right.
do, what we buy, what we think is acceptable. So if you were to see more people with disabilities in film and TV, it would be more acceptable for you to see someone in a job or working in a store or things like that. And you'll start to see it because people with disabilities, they say, oh, okay, they can do this job. So then they would want to hire them. So it's like this ripple effect of acceptance. So it's like when you start to see it, it's in your face, you're going to accept it, and we can have more full inclusion in society, and then people with disabilities can be hired more for actors and other careers, because not only that, people with disabilities will see themselves represented. So then they can say, okay, I can be a mom, I can be a doctor, I can be a teacher, because that person is, doing that too. And that's why I set out on this journey, because I didn't see anybody that looked like me. I didn't see anybody with a disability that barely saw women of color. And so it was like, no, I saw something very, very wrong with this. And I was like, I want to be an actor, I want to be a model, but I had so many people telling me that was never going to be an option for me. I would literally tell people, well, maybe you should do something behind the scenes. That's never going to be a career option for you. But when we start to see those things, it empowers you to want to achieve more.
The images are powerful. I have a personal experience in that when my son was born in 1979 with Down syndrome, I could walk into a restaurant with him on my hip and silence it, because you didn't take children with Down syndrome out in public. I had him in a backpack on my back at Universal Studios, and a woman said to me, oh, I have one of those at home. I said, a backpack? She said, no, a child like that. It was a very different world in 1979. So in 1989, when Life Goes On came on the air, a wonderful show that starred Chris Burke, an actor with Down syndrome, as Corky, I said to my son, oh, Blair, you're going to grow up and be like Corky. You're going to love this show. My son said to me, oh no, my Down syndrome is going to go away. Daddy's went away, my brothers went away. I hadn't given my son any adult role models with Down syndrome, so it was something that he, in his little Down syndrome mind, had considered that it would go away. That's how he had fathomed it, because I missed the opportunity of giving him adult role models. Well, a couple episodes into the show, he was very happy to see a future for himself, and it was wonderful. But a couple seasons into the show, we realized that when we go out to dinner, instead of the waiter turning to me and say, "What would he like to eat?" waiters were looking into his face and saying, "What would you like to eat?" And that's where my empowerment came to do this. I don't do what I do because I love being an agent. I tell that to my boss. I do what I do because I know we are damn powerful to change people's minds in this medium, and we have to take advantage of it, and we have to exploit it, and we have to make it do what it needs to do to make this a more inclusive and a more equal world that we live in.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Nic, I don't know, you didn't pay them enough to clap. Can we get a louder
Right.
clap than that? No. I will have to agree with Tatiana and Gail. I've been in the business for 25 years. I just wanted to add to what they were saying because I was not born with my disability. So I entered the world at 17. I'm going to give my age, so I'm 43 now. But I purposely got into the industry because growing up, I did not see an Asian American role model. And so that's why I started modeling. When I was injured 17 years ago in a car accident that paralyzed me from the neck down, I didn't even know that there were individuals in wheelchairs that were actors. It wasn't until my dear friend Tobias Forrest told me, like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I used to act and model." He's like, "What do you mean used to? You still can." And then there was this whole world that opened up. I went to KMR, and the funny thing is, 17 years ago, you would be lucky if you got a role, like 1 or 2 roles a year. And I was itching, like I couldn't sit around waiting for the wheelchair roles to roll in, literally. So I said, okay, what other avenue? Because here I am, Asian American, in a wheelchair, a female, like I had 3 minorities against me. So I'm like, I'm the consumer too. I was like, there's nobody that looks like me. And so finally, after doing some modeling here and there, then I finally said, you know what? This can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter. And so when I produced Push Girls, me and my girlfriend Mia, who's also on the TV show, we were saying that we were sitting at an airport, and here it was, we both had spasms in our bodies, and we wanted to release the spasm. And for the first time, we felt comfortable just to like let our legs shake out because people knew what the spasm was. And it turned out that the individual next to us had seen us on the show and said, "Oh yeah, are you guys okay? You guys are spasming, yeah, because of your situation." So it felt really good to know that, yes, if you do see individuals like ourselves, differently abled individuals, that it does affect. It does. I mean, you basically, just like what Tatiana and what Gail was saying, I just have to go along with that. So I also want to talk about, according to recent estimates, people with disabilities equate to a market of almost $200 billion annually. That's insane. Billion. Is Hollywood missing out on market and money by completely eradicating the presence of people with disabilities from TV or film?
Yes.
I love Monika.
Yeah, I think they are, but from my experience, I started this weekend film challenge 6 years ago that I run. That it's grown each year, so we get more and more people that have entered. But Hollywood has kind of come to us now. We're sponsored. We have 10 sponsors now: Universal Pictures, CBS, Variety, Dell, Deadline, Nike, Adobe. These are all companies that are like, wait a minute, we got to get into this now. They see that there's this, and I think part of it is that they don't know. They're not in their circles. Again, this lack of getting in the door, they're not seeing a lot of people with disabilities. So I think they're still trying to figure out, like writers are still like thinking, oh, wait a minute, if we're going to have a little person in, it's got to be a whole episode about him being a little person. It can't be about him just being in a fight with his girl, or, so I think part of it is that they think that they need to do more than needs to be done. But overall, I think that Hollywood and beyond Hollywood, just major Fortune 500 companies are starting to see that market. And you're seeing them in the Olympic commercials. You're seeing more and more where, oh, wait a minute, there's an amputee in that Nike commercial. Or, you're seeing more and more wheelchair athletes. And I think if they're smart, they're going to do it because, one, it's something different, and there's 600 networks now. So you gotta be different and unique, like, you know, your show. And
From the executive perspective, I'm seeing something really incredible happening where there's this shift towards the shows and movies that are being successful. There's a certain authenticity to it that you cannot buy it. It comes from the people who are making whatever you're watching. And it really floors me that every single time, like Crazy Rich Asians or Black Panther comes out, or even Girls Trip, or some of these movies where, you know, they make one every year, every 25 years, and like I guess in the case of Crazy Rich Asians, but that that every executive is surprised. They're surprised that there's this audience out there that's hungering for something that they can see themselves in. And I feel like the more data points there are, and we all need to support each other, because, you know, diversity and inclusion is something that is that a lot of different groups are fighting. And if we're going to support with our dollars the things that we want to see out there, then that's when the executives and the studio heads and people take notice, is because they want things that overperform, that make them look like geniuses. So I'm hoping that, you know, I'm seeing this curve where, you know, people are finally starting to realize where, you know, you can't just hire someone, an old white guy who has all these credits to write a story that isn't his own. There's more and more shifting towards wanting that authenticity and making sure that the story behind what you're seeing also feels real and authentic.
Tatiana?
I have a couple of things. So a couple of things are, the original statement. I lost my train of thought.
Is Hollywood missing out on market and money by completely eradicating the presence of people with disabilities from TV and film?
They are, because it is different. It is something different, and I think people don't realize that it is 20% of the population. But not only that, the disposable income that we have, it's at what trillion? How many trillion?
200 billion annually.
200 billion annually. And there's so many people that want to see themselves represented. I'm a lifestyle influencer, so I have a lot of people that talk to me on social media, and the majority of my audience are females with disabilities, and they crave to see themselves. But not only that, I've been able to collaborate with brands. I've collaborated with Apple, I've collaborated with a lingerie company, Parfait Lingerie, so many different things, and they have had great results from working with me as an influencer, actor, or model. And it's starting to happen a little bit, but I think people need to open up. Another thing is they don't think about the intersectionality of disability. There are people that are part of the LGBTQ community. There are people that are part of the African American community. There are people that are part of the Asian community that all are also part of the disability community. Actually, I think we're the only group that can fit in within all of those others. So it's like you can't talk about Asian community, you can't talk about Black community, the African American community, you can't talk about LGBT and not include disability. Like, it just, yeah.
Very true, yes. Nick, you better get those claps up, Nick. I don't know about you paying your folks. Do you think there is some responsibility to be had, I know this, on educating agents, managers, executives, as well as even diversity programs about the alarming disproportionate rates of speaking parts to disabled people in TV and film?
Yes.
And there's people that are working on this, and there needs to be more people on this. I mean, Terry is here today with
Yay,
real ability
Terry.
stuff. Terry Hartman Squire.
She's over there.
There she is. See her for information on the Real Abilities Film Fest. She has her 2.0 Lights Camera Access 2.0. So she's a good contact. Do we have Lauren Applebaum? Are you here? Lauren Applebaum back there from Respectability. They're doing a lot of advocacy work. I mean, these are two people who've got great things happening, and we need more. It needs to be a plethora of people doing. Oh, Deb Kahlo right here doing the Media Access Awards. I mean, there's another one really important. These, did I miss anybody that's doing stuff that's really like? Oh, Aline Gruba, and they're about to do an acting class for Aline Gruba and Paul Ford for free for performers with disabilities. So
That-
see her.
That's another thing.
Michael, the Writers Guild, they have a Writers with Disabilities Committee. I mean, if any of you here are filmmakers and you think there are no resources for you, oh, you're so wrong. We're here and we're available. Please reach out to us. I have to ask again if I missed anybody else that's doing something on that sort of global scale like you guys. I see hands in the back.
Mother Road Studios has volunteers here with all abilities.
Yay, thank you very much.
Yay,
We really
everyone.
appreciate you. And that's important too. Years back when I worked with the Down Syndrome Association, we'd always do volunteer activities because we thought, everybody thinks they're always giving to, the kids with Down syndrome, let's give to them. So we'd go give back and do the, clean the bay and those kind of things. Yeah, get involved in those things. That's wonderful. We're glad to have you. Anyway, yes.
Yes.
I
I already knew what the answer was, but I was like, oh my gosh. But so, yes, it's to everyone that is doing something to make this shift. But while we're talking about it, and Lauren with the respectability, so we have this right here. So Frances McDormand famously ended her Oscar acceptance speech with the words, inclusion writer, a reference to the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, which tackles gender and race inequality in film or TV, in front of and behind the camera. The Hollywood Disability Inclusion Toolkit, the Respectability Guide to Inclusion in the Entertainment Industry, is an ode specific to our community. So what are your thoughts on this, Stephen?
I
know
think
Stephen.
as a board member of Respectability, I know Lauren put in so many hours in putting that together, but a tool is a tool only when you're able to use it, and I think it should incumbent upon myself and Terry and other people in this room to help it be utilized by people in the industry. And I'm talking as a policy person that wants to put policy into practice. And I think we need to do a better job about making the business sense of inclusion.
Can I do a little plug on
Yes,
on
of course,
Lauren's
please.
the toolkit? It's basically, for those of you that don't know, it is a document and it's online. It's available through Respectability. Sorry, brain dead. Respectability, and it's a toolkit that tells you how to work with people with disabilities. It lists you organizations to go, people to see, things to do. I know that you're in bright pink, right? Yes. She'll be available. Terry's in bright pink, right? Yeah. Do you guys call each other? Anyway, find somebody in bright pink and ask them what they can offer you. But anyway, the toolkit is available online, so you can look it up. You can go to respectability.org and look up the toolkit and see what it involves.
Yeah, and I think going back to both this question and the question before about education, I think part of it is, though, that as people
You didn't raise your damn hand, Nick.
I went like that.
Well, it's too short. You should have come over and put it in my face.
She's coming with fire here right now. Gail is hitting me here. She got a free coffee. She's got a little energy.
The turmeric in it. The turmeric is getting to her.
It's all right. No, but I think part of the issue, though, is that we have to have the right tools. I mean, it's not just about education, because if we come in and everyone knows about who we are, but if our reel doesn't, ultimately, you have to have something to show. So I think we need to continue to be in writing groups, whether you're a writer, if you're an actor, you've got to continue to be producing your own content, getting into theater, because whether you have a toolkit or not, you have to have something awesome to show. I mean, for this year's film challenge, the Farley brothers reached out to us and were like, hey, we want a little woman with for this amazing role on Loudermilk. We'd like to see all the films of little people, women that entered your challenge. So we showed them all, and they auditioned everyone that entered the challenge. A major recurring role for a love story went to somebody that entered the challenge from a weekend film competition. Yeah. So it's when you're able to do your own content and put yourself out there, it improves things. And yes, we do need more education, but when we give the education, we need, as people with disabilities, to show that we're not just here to meet, we're here to book, and we're here to work, so.
And continue education as an actor.
Yeah.
Study the craft of acting.
Right.
It
I-
helps.
I will say one thing about as an actor. One of the challenges that I dealt with when I first came here is that there's a lot of acting studios that are not even wheelchair accessible. So that is something that people need to think about. I literally, to go check out an acting class, got out of my chair and climbed my chair, pulled my chair up the steps, just so I can attend an acting class. So I was like, if people want to lend resources, that is a major thing that could really help actors with disabilities, because like I said, a lot of times, you saw what happened here. We literally
Right.
cannot get in. So to think about things like accessibility, providing interpreters, a ramp, things like that. Those are little small things that can make our journey for what we need to do a little bit easier.
Thank you, Tatiana. So I'm going to also agree with Monika, how she was explaining that what just happened earlier from the beginning, because hopefully in the toolkit, Stephen, it also says, a little tip that if there is a ramp or some sort, maybe the day prior, we'll have to just check it out to make
Right.
sure it is accessible for us to go up it. Again, nothing against the WGA, but thank you so much for having us. But yeah, so that it's smooth next time. Now this question that's going to happen right now is going to open up a can of worms. It's going to get really crazy in here. So you guys just better get ready, okay? Just
I'm nervous
warning you
again.
guys, because I know this panel here. So talents like Scarlett Johansson have been recently reprimanded in the eyes of public opinion for having signed on for a role playing a transgender person. Transgender actress Tracy Lysette stated, "I wouldn't be as upset if I was getting in the same room as Jennifer Lawrence or Scarlett for this role." But we know that's not the case. So think the lead in a movie like Hush. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. Oh my gosh, I loved it. A thriller about a deaf writer, or Stronger, a true story of a man who lost his legs in the Boston Marathon bombing. So do you guys think that differently abled persons should be the only ones playing differently abled characters?
No.
I don't. The importance for me is that the character is on screen. The story is a story that happens to have actors in it that show the world in which we live. If the actor in Stronger happens to trigger the financing of that film so that story is told, fantastic.
Yes.
But who else did they see? That's when you open up your casting to more people, and I'm quick to get on the phone with
They
that.
can't hire a casting director without the financing.
Right. No, but I'm saying, but then when you get to the casting director, when that person's cast,
Then
who
you should
else
be
can you
reading.
plug in now? What else
Correct.
can you do?
Yes.
When the John Callahan story that,
Don't worry, won't get far on foot.
yes, that Phoenix is doing, I called them and I said, I just want to put some people in there. Is there anything we can do? Is there anything we can do? And we finally got a call saying, well, we have this scene with a group of people in a rehab center. It's background, but would your people want to do it? They're going to be sitting watching porn with River Phoenix. Oh, is that River Phoenix?
Joaquin
Which
Phoenix.
Joaquin
Joaquin
Phoenix,
Phoenix.
the live Phoenix. Okay. Anyway, I called everybody and they went, "You bet I want to sit and watch porn with him in the movie." And so
Yeah.
we
Wow,
had a
where
whole
was I?
slew of people doing the
be
rehab
one of them.
center part. But yeah, what else can they do if they're going to use somebody? But do give them I would say also do give them a chance to maybe audition. Look at Marlee Matlin. Somebody gave her a chance and look what happened, Just
And
Tatiana?
also read the transgender actors for other roles in the film that aren't written for a transgender role.
Yes. That also, my suggestion would be, if the role is meant for a person, or it is a person with a disability, for instance, the new movie that The Rock just did or whatever, where he played an amputee, they could have auditioned amputee actors. Of course, if the best actor wins, that's fine. But you could have still had The Rock in it and let him play the role next to that person. That way, that person still has that credibility, but then it also shows that that main actor that brings in that money is supporting a new up-and-coming actor. That is a way you can do it. That way, you still got that amputee actor to play that major role beside The Rock, where he played somebody that could be able-bodied, and there you go. But I think that's what the industry is not thinking about. They automatically want to put this moneymaker person in this role. But also, as a person with a disability, when I see somebody play a role that's in a wheelchair, we can tell when they're not disabled, and it's not as authentic. There's certain things that we do, the way we move, the way we do certain things. And so when we see somebody play a role and they're not really disabled, we're kind of disgusted because they're not doing it authentically.
Yeah, I think going back to what you were saying, that's a really important part because, you know, as a producer, I know how hard it is to get anything financed. Even a tiny, ultra low budget film just takes years. So if you do have some actor, I understand when it's one actor that is financing it, I don't think it's as authentic as if it is a role specifically for somebody with a disability playing that role. But what I don't accept is when you have a supporting role and you're like, oh, well, we can't, you know, find a good enough actor in a wheelchair or somebody that's an amputee, so that's why we're having the fourth lead be somebody that was on Dawson's Creek 10 years ago. You know, you know, that's not financing the movie, and I think that's where that really annoys me.
I want to share a true experience. I won't name names, but there was a show that came out a couple seasons ago, and when I read the script, I saw there was going to be someone in a wheelchair in it, and I sent all of my wheelchair guys the script. I said, read this, get ready for it. I called casting. When can we audition? When can the guys audition? Next week, when can the guys audition? This went on for probably a month. Finally, I got all my guys ready to go. They were going to audition on Monday. I had one guy who was going to be leaving town so he could audition on Friday. On Saturday, they told me they had sent my guy to producers. On Monday, all my other guys went in, and on Tuesday morning, an able-bodied actor had that credit listed on his IMDb page. Now, I know how long it takes to put together a contract. This guy was working on a contract from before my guy went in on Friday. I think casting was on my side because they sent my Friday guy to producers. They were trying to intervene, is how I feel. But no, this guy was who they were going to have. That's why they just called in the auditions at the end to cover their butt. And all my guys had to hurry and rush. Fortunately, they'd had scripts and sides for a long time. But they had to rush and get out and do it just so this production could say, well, we saw everyone in a wheelchair. And it's damn aggravating. It happens all the time.
So can I ask Gail, what did you say to them?
Well, I didn't want to say much to casting, you know. That's my contact. My contact's casting. I'm not talking to producers. Casting has stood up for me before. They've done things for me before, and I feel that they really did make an effort. So, I just said it was sad. You know, it's too bad. I did say to them, please let production know that we're aware so and so has this job, that it's on his IMDb page.
I wanted to also note that's a little different in film versus television. In film, you really need to anchor around a big star. But in television, there's a lot of shows that aren't built around a huge star. I mean, look at Mad Men, Game of Thrones. Nobody knew any of those actors before they became enormous hits. So I also work in a lot of YA stuff where, again, like with teenagers, there's not a lot of stars. So the way that you end up getting financing for those things is by creating roles around them that you can cast stars in. So I feel like that's another way that we can have more film and TV with authentic stories, is build it so that that actor can play, give an actor a chance to play that role, but then build other roles around it that you're going to cast with stars.
Does anybody want to say anything else?
I just really love that idea. Also, we talk a lot about it as casting directors in the casting world. We have constant conversations about just bringing actors in for the dad, for the cousin, for the whatever of the lead, and not address the disability or the color or the gender, and just be like, that's your aunt. There's her aunt.
No, definitely.
That's her aunt.
That's your aunt. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Aunt Monika.
What?
Yes, thank you, Aunt Monika. No, I agree with you.
Auntie.
There's a famous, very popular, or not popular, but it's a mind once stretched by a new idea can never return to its original dimensions. So for me, I feel that if these casting folks, producers, directors, writers, if they actually see someone walking in, rolling in, strolling in, whatever, then it just fades the ignorance. It puts that picture in their mind of when they look at that script and they see girlfriend, it's not, they're just looking for a girlfriend. They're going to see that woman in a wheelchair and say, oh, she can be a girlfriend.
It's like
So-
Peter Farrelly when he said, I've never read a script that said Dad walked in the room and he was not blind.
Exactly. There you go. So, yeah, so, all righty. So, Disability Rights Organization Ruderman Family Foundation President Jay Ruderman released a statement which included his take on disability being treated as a costume in Hollywood movies. How do you feel about actors, models, talent profiting off roles with this type of image? Disabilities that they aren't actually affiliated with, afflicted with.
It's offensive. It's offensive that somebody with that doesn't have a disability can go in a wheelchair, get a role or a job, and hear someone like me or Angela or something like that, and we need to provide for ourselves too. But then somebody's pretending to be who we are every day and getting paid off of it. That's not fair. And then we're sitting here still collecting disability. You know what I mean? It also gives us a chance to be gainfully employed.
And if it does need to be someone that's going to bring in a box office number, which we understand, please get a consultant. Have them there. It's going to give one of our guys a job. And I've had people in wheelchairs go, I'm not going to be a consultant. Get over it. Be a consultant. There's nothing better than getting there and getting paid and eating the same food they're eating and hanging out with everybody and getting to meet people, because maybe next time you're going to get an opportunity to do something because somebody's met you and has thought of putting you somewhere
And that
else.
entire film crew experiences working with a person who is differently abled. And then in their minds, as they're creating their new YouTube series, they're like, oh yeah, that was amazing.
Can I add to that?
He was such a regular dude.
I really agree with Gail, because I do consult and I advocate for myself on behalf of the community with regard to the business sense. And I can tell you, if I didn't have the facts, figures, and a little bit of talent, David Lynch of Twin Peaks would have never hired me for the series as a featured background actor. So you really have to open your window to the opportunities to make a difference. You just have to. It's a competitive industry. Get over it. Life is a competition. The best go forward.
I think part of it too is that us being able to really tap into the audience. We are 20% of the population, but I think as that 20%, we need to continue to, if there's an article, an op-ed article about disability inclusion, or if there's a show, or there's a great web series, continue to share it to prove that, hey, there is that audience behind it, because ultimately studios, networks, they just want to make money. As much as, we'd like them to change the world all the time, they are really thinking of it from a business sense.
You're right.
Elisabeth?
When we casted Sort of Supportive, we had Shira Strongen. She came with a wheelchair, and I think communication is key. All the producers, we have to wake up producers. We had on set our writer, Travis Flores. He's a double lung transplant survivor. And also Kayla Haber, she's a double lung transplant survivor. They're both CF patients. What's really important is we communicate with the crew every morning. We had safety meetings. Everybody thought it was amazing. We had 40 people always on set, and they all respected each other. The only thing I wanted on set was a quiet set, not a crazy set, because usually on set it goes wild, but everybody understood. We had, when we had the table read and we had the 4 people with disability, they were so inspiring. I mean, you guys inspire me every day. Like when the crew started complaining about something, I said, why are you guys complaining? I mean, these people on wheelchairs are so happy to be here. Why are we complaining? They inspire me every day to hire people with talent, and no matter who it is, what they look like, I think it's just talent. It just has to be, I don't know.
Tatiana.
I would just like to say, people don't think that we're just everyday people. We just move about the world differently, and that's only because society isn't adapted to us. If we had universal design, it would be different. So I think when people, say to you, like say to me when I'm out in the store, and they say, "Oh my gosh, you're so brave," and all that kind of stuff. It's like, why am I brave for going to the grocery store? Why? I have to do grocery shopping. I have to work. I have to make a living. We are everyday people. My legs don't work because I have spina bifida. I've dealt with it my whole life. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, you move around so well." I've been in this body my whole life. Of course I know how to move around. But I think that's what people forget. They forget that we are just everyday humans, just like everyone else. We just move about the world differently. And that's it.
But I think that writers in TV, don't have enough exposure to people with disabilities, honestly. A lot of, I was in 2 TV shows this year that I already knew the people. So that's why the roles weren't so specific about me being all about my height. I just played a boring role as like a yogurt salesman that's kind of sassy, and it's like not an exciting role, but they were able to be like, "Oh yeah, we already know Nick, so why doesn't he just play that?" So the issue, it didn't become about me being a little person, and I think in general, it's the more that we can show, showcase in front of writers so they could see that the storyline doesn't have to be all about the disability. That's really, I think, going to change the game.
I think that's what I'm the proudest of with This Close. Josh and Shoshana have always said that, we're messy people. In the show, they are kind of mean to one another sometimes. They get blackout drunk. They do drugs. They have sex. It's like their lives, which is ultimately universal and relatable, all of the things that they're going through. But what makes it special and different and loud and fascinating is it's seen through their particular lens. And so, all of the emotion is captured in the range of human experience where everyone can enjoy it, but it's telling their specific story. And I think that's sort of the important thing to realize, is that your story is important and everyone can relate to it. And it's your specific perspective that makes it special. So you should never shy away from that.
Thank you, Winnie. Monika, did you want to say something?
Well, it just ties back to your first question. It's just that question of, if you see it on television, does that help? Yes, and I'm going to pimp out Nick a little bit right now. We had a day of actors with various and sundry disabilities come to Paramount, and we had a series of volunteers, both young, my age, older. It was full flourish. So, but there were questions like, well, what do the actors with disabilities need? I'm like, parking. So let's find the parking spaces and guide them to the room. But by the end of the day, these very nervous and shy and sort of, I don't know, young people, old people, middle people, just people, were so emailing back and forth. And I got so many texts, "Oh my God, Nic Novicki is so hot. Oh my God, he's so cute. Is he single? Does he hang out at your office?
Where's Theo?"
I mean, seriously, he was like the king of the day.
If I said I paid for people to clap, imagine how much I just gave her to say that.
But just the experience of having that day, they were able to see Nick as a person, not as a precious angel gift. Right? It's like, "Oh, you precious angel." No, he's hot and he's dangerous. Okay.
And Nick pays people to clap. So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to just jump on top of all of that. Yes, it is about being the change and not being afraid. And I always say it's about getting in their face and just not beating around the bushes, going and ripping it right out and going straight into there. But not being afraid and just keep on going. When we did Push Girls, we went to every single major network. You name them, we went to them. MTV, VH1, CMT. oxygen. I can go all day long. And they were afraid. They're like, what are we going to do with women in wheelchairs? But the thing is, every single one of them said no. And then, I'm not going to name which network, they actually bought us. And 3 days before they gave us the green light, the female president left, a male president came in and said, I don't know what we're going to do. What are we going to do with them? And they dropped us. Now, most people would just have given up by that point. But I was like, no, we're not giving up. So we waited 3 more months, and then we went to who can think outside the box, who is not afraid, who is bold enough. And then we went to Sundance. And luckily, we gave them this reel, and we said, here, look at this, and then just let us know at the end of the week. They fell in love, and the rest is history. The reason why I share this is because each and every one on this panel right now, especially what Nic was saying about the film challenge, to what Tatiana was saying, to Stephen, it's about getting out there, having this vision, understanding what the formula is, about getting into people's visuals, their imagination, and just basically placing that seed within them so that we can make these changes and make these shifts. And so that is why we are here, and we're doing what we're doing. And we'd like to thank each of you guys for allowing us to be here. And that pretty much wraps up for today. I don't know if we're allowed. Are we able to have any questions? Are we open to having questions? Is that okay or no? Or we're just meeting people in the lobby?
Where's
Does it
that?
go rogue?
Where's the
So
sign?
yeah, so does anybody else want to say anything before we close?
I just want to say that when we leave this theater, let's stop talking about it and start being a little bit more aggressive, because as a former policy person, I don't want to be here next year talking about this. I just don't want it. And Terry knows how hard I fought in DC. It was hard, huh? And so this is harder. So when you leave this theater, remember this, please. We're humans first, labels last.
Yes. Thank you so very much.